Happy Tuesday, March 10, which is almost spring. It looks like it, feels like it until what, later on today? So we'll see what the weather brings to us. Glad to have you all on board. Today, it is all about update to our contracts. Minor. We're not going to talk about the why it's going to $495, but it gave us the opportunity to make adjustments that you guys had suggested and some things that had to happen. And I think it'll bring a lot of clarity to some issues that we did actually face. So we're going to talk about the purchase agreement, the exclusive buyer agency agreement, and the exclusive right to sell. Let's start with the purchase agreement. Now, guys, I'm whether you're blue or you're gold, the purchase agreement is the same except for when we got to put the brokerage name in there. So we've had no changes to any really of the first page of the purchase agreement. No, there was no changes here. If anybody's got any questions or anything about any paragraph, let me know. We'll stop, we'll pause and talk about it. Obviously, there's your first big one is page 15, where it addresses the aspect of the 495. That's all the changes there. However, paragraph 16, guys, we need to bring clarification to. There was a small change to the first and most common. And one of our title partners said, that doesn't really apply to all municipalities with the way that we had it written. So real property taxes will be prorated as if they were billed in advance as to the date of closing in accordance with the due date of the appropriate taxing authority. The biggie being in accordance with the due date. It's a minor change. Most title companies understood what we were referring to and did it correctly anyway, but due date is the primary change to that one. Most of you in the metropolitan Detroit area will use this box. This is the one to use. That was the change. I'm looking for faces and seeing if any questions come up.
Darwin, this is Sandra from Coldwell Banker. Doesn't matter if you check that one or the as per local custom of the local taxing authorities.
Yes, because what does as per local custom of the local taxing authority mean? Is that in arrears? Is that in advance? What is a local custom? A lot of people would say, well, why are you putting it on there? Because there's going to be times when we just got to have it. But what we need to do as real estate agents is to use our due diligence to be able to find out how it is handled. Because what we're doing by putting it as per local custom of the local taxing authority, we don't know how it works, so we'll just do this. And I'm not saying it doesn't have its place. I believe it does for that reason. But that means that we had to put an offer together quickly, and we're covering our backside. But at the same point, whom do we represent and what rules? What rules is not what the local taxing authority is, but what the purchase agreement says. Could I not write a purchase agreement in metropolitan Detroit and state that the property taxes would be prorated in arrears. Could I do that? The answer is yes. Do I know that's not what's customary? I know that, but this is the way that the buyer wanted it written. So it can be done that way, which is not customary nor in line with. But what does that mean? If I go in the opposite, there's a swing in who's paying money and who's getting credit on money. That's the real big difference for that. Yeah, Tom, go ahead. Yep, Tom, you're still muted.
I have a,
Tell you what, Tom, you keep trying to get that thing off mute and I'll go to somebody else.
Darwin, I have a question.
Go ahead, boss.
So, so, I mean, even if that was written in a contract, say somebody accidentally put it arrears opposed to in advance, wouldn't that be caught with the title paperwork that was
Well,
and you would follow municipality?
I'm going to say what they're going to do is go, hey, did you really mean this? The answer would be either yes or no. If I really meant for it to be prorated as if paid in arrears, I did that with a very specific reason.
Okay, could you give me an example of a reason why somebody would do that? I guess I don't, I'm sorry. It's one of those.
No, it's great because you'd be surprised. I've rarely used it, but I have done it. What's a maximum contribution that a seller can give on concessions in most cases?
3%, 6%.
3 to 6 typically is the max, right?
Yes.
What if the buyer still needed more?
Okay.
I could do the taxes as if paid in arrears. Now who gets the credit?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Check with your mortgage person if you ever use that one. But again, we're using that, guys, because again, the purchase agreement is what rules. It's not how taxes are handled within that local municipality, unless the purchase agreement states that that is to how it's to be done. Okay? So just keep in mind that part of it. Tom, you're off good now.
Okay. I've had 2 or 3 cases where I've had a disabled veteran, and disabled veterans don't pay taxes. And so now you have a problem of everybody asks you what is going to be the future taxes, and you don't know and then you have to explain to them a year in advance. They call me up and go, I didn't know my taxes were going to be that much.
Yeah, it's always great. And guys, that's a key part why this is now in here. We did this as the last update. So the buyers are now initialing. Now, again, if I go back 2 weeks, I did a little update on code of ethics. Again, we'll finish that up. But with the increase of the 495, I wanted to get we'll call it introduction to the updated paperwork in your hands so that you would know some of the other things that were changed along with that 495. But we should be covering this with our buyers. If all we're doing is sending the purchase agreement and saying, just go ahead and sign initial everything, they're going to initial this and not know it. This was put into our purchase agreement with the last update for what Tom you just brought up. We want to prevent them. I don't know if you've ever been that poor. I started out that way in life, and every dollar counted. They don't need surprises when we're just barely getting them into the house and they don't have extra money yet. So make sure they are aware of what their taxes will become, and make sure that's what this is here and that they understand what they're initialing also. So good on that one. All right. Any other questions around this one? All right. Well, yep, go ahead.
there we go. I'm on. There was a new form in Real Comp for the taxes. Could we use that also with the purchase agreement?
Is it the same thing if I remember right? It's about, hey, taxes aren't
I
going to
haven't
stay the
really
same.
looked at it, but I just know there was a new form about taxes.
I think that's what it was. And this is where, as a company, we always try to simplify everything. And by just having them initial that, if I remember correctly, Holly, it's the same thing. Right. So here's the real big change to the purchase agreement. I think we finally have it written in a format that makes sense. So paragraph 44 is about the disclosure of the supervisory broker becoming a dual agent. Okay. So there's a bit of change in the wording. I will tell you that the one that we are currently using is a designated, says designated, which implies agency. Well, that's what we were trying to get clarification to, because could we have both sides of a transaction but represent only one party? The answer is yes. Our other one was implying that we were always representing, and we weren't. So this breaks it down, one, to say working with, or no longer is it saying designated agents of, implying agency. So it now says that the broker and agents are working with the buyer and or seller. That's the first part of it. Then we changed the format so that now we're going, I'm either going to have A or I'm going to have B. A says is representing only the buyer or the seller. Buyer and sellers acknowledge the Coldwell Banker Professionals is representing only the buyer or the seller. Or, and this is a key, Coldwell Banker Professionals, or obviously Century 21 Professionals, is representing both buyer and seller, and therefore brokers and all named supervisory brokers will be acting as disclosed dual agents of both the buyer and the seller. So this is dealing only with the brokerage and the supervisory brokers. Notice that it is only Coldwell Banker Professionals, or it will only be Century 21 Professionals. So to address, what if I'll use Livonia and Northville? They're neighbors to each other. There's a good possibility that they will cross over. If they were to have a transaction together, it is still only as Coldwell Banker and only as Century 21. That would never be both. Our two companies have separate brokerage licenses. Everybody clear with that one?
Hi, Darwin. I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Selma.
So how about if both agents are from like just Century 21 Professional? Which one we pick that time?
Well, let's read it. If it said buyers and sellers acknowledge that Century 21 Professionals, would it be A or would it be B? Because let's Selma take it. You from Clarkston sold a Troy listing. What would you check off?
Okay, I am a buyer from Clarkston, so I check buyer. And
Yep. So the first box would be up here.
yes.
But here, let me read it again. by our signatures below, the parties hereby acknowledge the broker and agents are working with is Century 21 Professionals in the scenario that we just gave, Clarkston and Troy,
So I should pick both of them, buyer and seller, because this,
buyer and seller,
okay,
because again, it's Century 21 Professionals.
okay.
That is the same company.
And
So-
then I pick A
Then it would be
or B because the
is
three says
representing
be dual. Okay.
both, because again, it's not the individual agent. It is the brokerage and the supervisory brokers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think it's a great clarifying question. So is everybody on page and seeing that? Because again, it's about the brokerage and the supervisory brokers. We're going to call that a thumbs up and everybody's good. Other than that, guys, everything else is the same. You'll see, by the way, down at the bottom, each page has got the update that we're going to use. So this is a 3/1/2026. You'll always see that. Okay. Let's see which one. I think this will be simpler. Let's go to the exclusive right to sell. First thing you'll notice that I have signed or changed or highlighted. There we go. Exclusive right to sell or lease contract. So there was a, why don't we have a lease contract? Well, it was pretty simple. We fixed it. We kept it all on one. It brings clarification. So this has come about because of a request by you. And I'll tell you, it's pretty simple. Anytime there's a buyer/tenant, we've added the option for lease or for sale. It could be both. But that's really all we've done with this, is to add everything in that or lease for the property, the sum of. Owner/landlord. This was a necessity. It was missed off of the previous one, and this needed to be there as per the settlement language. So we're now fully compliant. You have now, if a lease, owner agrees to pay the brokerage firm blank percent of the total rent due for blank months, or otherwise, you could do 10% for 12 months. You could do 10% for 24 months. Gives you a little flexibility for what your payment on a lease could be. You could still do the flat dollar. So if you did a half month's rent, well, put the flat amount in here. It gives you the flexibility. Again, owner sells trade leases. For our purpose of this paragraph, sales shall include a subsequent sale pursuant to an optional option granted during the applicable period. Otherwise, your lease with option to purchase is addressed with it. Oops, get that a little bit higher for you. Sorry. I forgot about that part of it.
Hey, Darwin,
Yes, sir.
when you say put in the dollar amount, and that's true if you have a specific single property. But if you're doing any property in Michigan and you don't know what that amount's going to be.
Well, this is the exclusive right to list or sell or lease, excuse me. So not the buyer contract. This is the listing contract.
This is the okay. This is
Yep.
the listing contract.
This is the
Okay.
listing, not the buyer. We'll look at that one next.
Okay, I jumped the gun. Thank you.
Hey, Darwin, to go back up to that lease, so I understand it correctly for the if a lease owner agrees to pay brokerage firm. So if it's a 1 month's rent, I would put 100% of the total rent due for 1 month. Would that be correct?
Yeah. So if here's what's been typical is that we will take 1 month's rent. So if it was 2,000, we would put 2,000 to blank.
Right.
I will tell you that I do 10%. That actually makes me a few more dollars. So my case, I do 10% of the total rent for 12 months. Well, what if they did 24 months, Darwin? Well, I'd still get 10% of 12 months.
Darwin, then that
Mhm.
10% is going to be divided between seller and buyer agent or no?
Nope, I'm still going to give them 1/2 month's rent because that's what's normal. That's a
Okay.
great marketing. Could I give 1/2 month? Yes, but that's where same compensation adjustment is what you could do down here. We did. You can put the 3% or the blank dollars. I'm going to do the 1/2 month rent. Be careful. Well, no, we don't have that anymore, so never mind. Just be careful on what we tell them. Because if a different rate is negotiated, you could be stuck. But again, we don't sign to pay compensation. Again, leases, that paragraph. Everybody good with this section? This is still paragraph 5, still the same.
Darwin, can you hear me?
Yeah, just barely, but I got you, bud.
We're having quite the difficulties with Zoom today, so hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
But what if the seller is only going to pay us 3% and they want to negotiate the rest in the purchase agreement? Then A, B, C don't work, correct?
Correct. D would be the answer.
And should we have A, B, and C initialed and have 0, 0, and 0?
You could, but D initialed by itself should be sufficient.
Perfect.
Because it is saying not offer any portion, which is ABC are not available. And absolutely, should we do that if we've done everything that we can? Yes. And the only thing to remember is that if up here on paragraph 4, we did our 3% that they're willing to pay us as a listing broker, what if we get both sides? This is what's initial down here is D. How much do we get compensated?
So we put it in the purchase agreement.
Well, and again, this is 2 weeks ago when I did the update on the code of ethics. Here becomes the issue. What might it now force you to do so that you can be compensated for the buyer side? You'd have to have a contract signed, and that's where Jeff is going. The buyer's going to have to pay us. Well, what's the only way that we can really get paid? Represent the buyer. Now, did we just work in the best interest on fiduciary responsibilities owed to the seller? Because we all know that we can do that, and we will do that. But not every circumstance says do it that way. So then it becomes the question, did you operate in the best interest of the seller? Because 3% more just had to be built into the contract, into the purchase agreement. I'm just giving you food for thought, guys. I'm not saying right, wrong, or otherwise indifferent.
Hey,
It
Darwin.
just raises that question. Go ahead,
Darren,
Jeff. Valerie, let me stay with Jeff just to make sure he's all set.
So if we put 3% on here, we could put in the remarks down at the bottom that if we produce a buyer, they will pay us an additional 3%. We could do that, right?
Well, what I would do is, I'm still at that point. If they're willing to do that, I'm going to do the 6 here and still offer nothing. I would put in the additional comments that if, as per paragraph 4, 6% is only if we have both sides of the transaction. It just gets really muddy. And again, guys, as I put it, I haven't found any verbiage that truly will adjust this for what we know we will do. And what we will do is only if we have both sides will we take the 6. If we only have one side, we take 3. But I am not going to write this, and we haven't seen anything come from anybody to where we can get what we want this to say and not have it as a misinterpretation. So just keep in mind, we're always only going to take whatever we were intending to keep on the list side. If a buyer comes in asking the seller to pay less, we are not going to take advantage of that. We are going to give that amount to the buyer or to the seller. So, yeah, I think you can always address it, Jeff. I think you know what you got a great crew of people, and I think they all think on the same line as the company, and we know what we need to do. It would be more to the point of if the seller needs to have that taken care of. So the only thing with putting 3 and checking D, what if we get both sides? We're good if we represent the buyer because they sign a contract and now we get paid. But if we don't get it, we're only getting paid on one side. Now, is that a bad thing? No, you guys do it all the time on a buyer. Because you sign a buyer up for 3%. Do we then go ahead and list a for sale by owner? Nope. Compensation in full is always already covered. Okay. Valerie, I know you were there.
it was covered. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Everybody good then? Again, what you see, it's just addressing lease agreement, applications. And this is what you'll see. I didn't go through and make sure I hit every one of those highlights, but that's really all we did to make this an exclusive right to sell or lease agreement. So again, we still have one that we need to deal with, keeping everything simple, not a separate agreement. Let's talk about the exclusive buyer now / tenant agency contract. Guys, this one was always already addressed. It did it with one paragraph. And this was the paragraph. So this is paragraph 7. I believe what I did is I moved this up. So I just changed it so it becomes a little bit more prominent. So this has always been in our agreement. And it's what made it a buyer / tenant agreement. So paragraph 7 will be the one. It's on the existing if you have something before this hits sky slope. Here's the other big change. It's at the bottom of page 4. Buyer will pay the compensation directly, or buyer will have seller contribute to the buyer broker compensation through their offer to purchase. This came as a suggestion for one of our agents, and it's really now a simplification. We are getting direction from the buyer on how they will pay us. And if it is to be they've told us with the seller, here's how we're going to do it, put it on a purchase agreement.
So we should give the option to buyer to pick either one? Or
We
suggest-
actually, Selma, I would say, really, we always have. We just never directly discussed it.
Okay.
So now they're actually going to give us direction. We will guide and advise them, but now they're telling us this is what we want to do when it comes to writing our offer. We'll have already addressed it during the buyer interview or the buyer consultation.
So should we put the 3% there or no?
Well, same thing. So the only thing that we did is we added this. The rest of paragraph 4 for compensation is the same.
The same.
So we're still going to do our 3%. 495 is already there, or 195 for a lease. By the way, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, basically we have two ways of being able to do this. One is for you to be able to pay the compensation directly out of pocket, or you can do what is most common, and that is you can just simply direct me to put it in as helping you putting together your purchase agreement, asking the seller to give you the contribution toward paying us.
Okay.
I got a quick question.
Let me make sure Selma's all set with.
Yes, I am. Thank you. It's clear.
All right,
Thank you.
good. Laura?
So I had this happen a few months ago. My buyer agreed to the 3% on the agreement, and we asked for that in our purchase agreement. And through negotiation, it ended up that they were only going to pay 2%, and my buyers agreed to pay the additional percentage. So what if we end up in a situation like that? It's really both. I mean, the intention is to get it through the purchase agreement from the seller, but you can't get all of it, and they're willing to pay the other amount directly. How would we address that?
That is going to be on our purchase agreement. And it's just a bit of a change on how we would complete it. Come on, where the heck is it? There. I keep looking for highlights. We're going to do that still with paragraph 6. And what we would end up doing is, whoops, checking those two boxes.
So Darwin, if we do it that way, what would take precedence as far as would it be the buyer agreement where it was said that the seller would pay, or would it be
Well,
the
it's
purchase agreement?
yeah, let me go back. It's a great question. Let's get this clarified. So this is simply here I am trying to make this work. Get that. Sorry, it's down at the bottom. This is simply saying, I can't do it that way. This is simply saying, here's the way we want to do it. But regardless of how it gets done, we still get whatever we put here. Does that make sense? They're still bound to pay the same amount, but they couldn't get it. Whoops, I didn't have to do that. But we know that, well, here, let's create the scenario. We need to go back to the aspect of when you show a home, how many of you are calling and saying, hey, agent, how much is the seller offering for compensation? What I found out, it's probably less than 10%. Be one of those that are calling. Good for you. The argument is that it may change the way that the buyer makes their offer. This would be one of those. If we make our offer, knowing that the seller was only intending to offer 2%, we would address it right up front by saying, seller to contribute 2%, buyer who will pay 1%. We just put it on the offer up front because we know that. But most, and I'm not going to say there's right or wrong. I can argue why, because in the beginning I said, I'll say it the way I said it previously. I could give a rat's ass less what the seller is offering. I've got a con 3%. And now I'll have a contract that says we want you to get it all from the seller. So does it matter that the seller was only offering 2%? Could I not, under the buyer's direction, still put seller 3% here? Yeah. You see, that's what's already in place. It really doesn't matter what this. I feel like a crazed person. It doesn't matter what the seller's offering.
I'm going to go back to the buyer's agency. So I have a situation where the buyer cannot afford to pay the full compensation and it's not being offered by the seller. So do we have to go back to the buyer?
The buyer
agreement?
can't afford to pull any money out of their pocket is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
Any further? Yes.
Yep. Keep it simple. Purchase agreement. What are you going to put here?
Well, I'm going to put 3, but if the seller doesn't agree to it and says, I can't do that, what can be done?
So let's take a scenario. Sandra, what's the purchase price?
$435.
$435. What is 1% more?
Like,
what's 1% more?
Yeah, like 4,003.
Call it close, right? So what am I going to offer as a buyer?
Yeah, I understand that.
Keep it simple, because now you're going, well, what if they don't qualify for 440? Well, then you can't buy that house.
Mm-hmm. I'm more of okay, we've went through the compensation, but does that mean we have to change the contract with the buyer?
No.
Okay.
Because you're taking it, but would the buyer potentially want to know that you're taking less?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. No, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I would tell you is that, look, let's forget it's a buyer and it's a seller. Is there times when we might reduce our compensation to be able to get a deal to happen because it's either a good business decision or it's the right thing to do? Yes, we do. Okay. I'm going to use the same strategy and philosophy with a buyer. There may be times where it's simply a good business decision or it was the right thing to do. Now, if they go, well, I want to buy this house, but I only want to pay you 2.5%. No, I don't do that. How could I charge you 2.5 when I charge everybody else 3? Okay. So, and yeah, Yvette just put it, she actually did that, where it was just, how are we going to handle it? I'll offer more because I know I'm responsible. And as long as we can get that to happen, then we're golden. I think, just remember, you have a contract and it says the buyer will pay you 3%. How they get the money, how they pay you, well, we just simply gave a box to say, yeah, I want you to put it as part of our purchase agreement, or we'll pay. And could you check both? Yeah, you could check both. If they've got cash to be able to do it, that would make sense. If they're offering cash, that may be something that you would do, because that would be logical. So it's, how can the buyer make an offer which is not only the highest, but the best? And that's the way that we need to take a look at the purchase agreement at this point. Okay, good questions, you guys. What else do we have?
Hi, Darren, it's Marjorie.
Yep.
I put in the chat my question. If you have an existing buyer agreement with the old compliance fee?
Then
Oh,
it is still under that contract.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So any existing signed agreement,
Okay.
they're going to be fine.
Oh,
But if
okay.
it's dated March 1st, then it needs to be updated.
April
Or,
1st.
yeah, let me put it. Yeah, April 1st.
Okay.
Then it would be on the new agreements.
Okay.
Darwin, what
Yes.
happens if you have a buyer's agreement right now and it expires on the 30th of March and they still want to work with you after the 1st?
I'd get an extension beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, this is recording. No, guys, do the right thing. You've got the people under contract. We want to work with them. We want them to buy a home from us. We don't want to go, oh, by the way, I got to have you sign this now because it's $495. Nah, just get an extension for it. I'm on record for that one. I'll get the one in trouble. Good question there. I'm just looking through now that you mentioned that. Chat, let me just make sure it's clear. It's legally clear. Yes, the lease compliance fee did remain the same at $195. Can you move my pick? Yes, when I remembered. Clear purchase agreement is a contract between the buyer and seller. How is it enforceable? So Jamie, I think what you're talking about is that number right there on paragraph 15, which I'm hiding. Let me see if I can get myself out the way. There we go. Okay. So this right here, paragraph 15 of the purchase agreement is not binding upon the buyer. And Jamie just hit it. It is an agreement between the buyer and the seller. We're not a party to this agreement. I will tell you the only reason I believe it is on there is the knowledge of all the parties in the closing escrow title company. I think, Jamie, that is what you were hitting upon, and I don't think that we are actually tying contracts together. It's just there's the one contract between us and the buyer, one contract between us and the seller, and then their purchase agreement. But this leaves it separate. We're not privy to the purchase agreement. If it refers back to, I'm not aware of anything on here that it refers back to. So move on. Let's see. Just always ask something. Yep. Marjorie, we got yours. Just need the offer sufficient to cover the buy. Yep. Otherwise, offer enough that's going to cover the additional compensation that we're asking a seller to pay. But just remember, if they're already offering or asking too much, I don't offer even more than what they are. Bring it down. I used the scenario. I've closed on it, so I can tell you now. We had one that was at $275 on a list price. We accepted $285, giving $15,000 back. So net, we accepted $5,000 less than our asking price. It covered it. I've got another one that has not closed, but they did the same thing. They offered more than the list price. It covered all the compensation plus ensured that they got the home. Can you cover what the compliance fee is for if you haven't already? Yes. It covers the same thing as the 6% does. What's the 6% for? cover everybody's expenses. There's a reason that and I've shared this, I have for years been saying we got to quit breaking it out. It's our compensation. It should not be a separate fee. It's just our compensation. You'll remember that I ensured that we changed from commission to compensation. A seller and a buyer pays compensation. Well, our compensation, and the reason it's written this way, is so that it's not for anything other than our compensation. Thus, the 6% plus $495. If anybody ever pressed, I'd say, well, I guess I could charge 6.1%. In our case, it's just clearly we do it as a separate fee because as agents, we don't share in that. That is company money. What we know through our contracts is we share the 490 or the 6%, the 3% that we get per side. 495. Here, I've done this. I give a big old smile. I said, "You mean really?" I said, "Mean like compensation's not good?" I said, "It's profit. It's how our company makes money." Any other questions? And a smile. Because truthfully, isn't that what it's for? So the only reason that it ever even comes up, I wish it was not a separate line item on the closing statements. My contract says 3% plus $495. If it was done that way, very few people would ever ask. And I can't tell you the last time I had anybody ask what that was for. So,
I have a quick question, Darwin.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're no longer saying that is for storing documents for 7 years? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's for profit.
Well, she's reading what I wrote when I was with a different brokerage. I was told that 495 was to store all of the documents for 7 years.
No, I wasn't reading what you wrote. That's what I was told too.
It was, listen,
And that's what I still tell people.
Yeah, there was all kinds of names for it. And Linda, yes, that was one of the things that people blamed it on. And because we had to explain why we were charging this separate fee. When in reality, why were we charging it? Profitability. So, and was it a reasonable excuse to say it was a document storage fee? Yeah, I think we even used to call that. A number of companies used to call it that because back prior to digital storage, companies would have to rent space to store documents and have people that could run to this storage facility if anybody ever needed a copy of something from a closing or whatever it may be. So it was a legitimate excuse, but what was it for? Profit. So again, it's the reason that with our documents, I just made it so that it's an easy explanation that says it's our compensation. That's all. And
go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I do literally give a big smile and say, well, if that's not it, same thing as 6%. It's for our profitability for the company. And then leave it at that. Go ahead, Holly.
Do you still charge the compensation fee to vets if they're doing a VA loan? Do you charge to that?
That is still company policy. I have not heard any change, but a veteran is one where that is not charged. And you'll see that still on your broker requirements. Just like if it is a referral through the relocation department, it is not charged. And you can cross that out and have yourself and your buyer's or seller's initial. What else you got, guys? Any other questions towards any of it? So I believe a Sky Slope does everything correctly, transaction desk. What you may see is the new agreements come in early. I would expect that the existing ones will be there and then eliminated. They won't be there on April 1st. It would only be the updated agreements. Whatever you do, April 1st, make sure that you've got the three, what do we got at the bottom? 3/1, 2026. That would be on the bottom of all of the new ones. But 3/31 is the last day of 395. April 1st, it's not April Fool's, it's 495. All right. Everybody good? Why do I feel like you might be fooling? Yeah, there was a pun intended. All right, gang. You know, at this point next week, I'm thinking I'm going to be able to go back to cover the rest of the updates with the Code of Ethics with some fun stuff in there that I think would be really pertinent for all of us. But in the meantime, we're like through January, February. We're on the verge of spring. If you haven't really kicked in and started talking to people, now's a great time to go do that. Get out there, hit the streets, talk with lots of people. Matter of fact, I was talking with one of my new ones. I'll share with you real quickly. He says, Darwin, I went to the mall and I went with the intent of being able to make 10 contacts. I handed out 10 business cards talking to people, and I've got one appointment with a buyer. Walking through the mall. That's one of my new guys on the business development series. Go talk to people, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great one.